in the Killdozer situation, the hardest part of it was the fact that Marv Heemeyer's manifesto is a series of 4 tapes. There is no written manifesto. It's not even really a manifesto. There's a lot of guys like the Unabomber, they wrote it out and there was some structure to it. They were trying to make a point.
Well, yeah, Marvin was too busy welding.
Well, he didn't record and was like, God sent me on a mission.
Yeah. Literally, he's like, so one of my friends said I should probably write down the way I'm feeling, but I don't feel like writing it, so I'll just do this, record a tape, I guess. And he's like, so back in '91, it just starts and it like just goes. And so
how long are the tapes altogether?
It's like 12
2 hours, 44 minutes. 2 hours, 44
only 2
minutes.
hours?
It's only 2 hours and 44 minutes, yeah. But he goes through the whole thing, and at one point, it seems like maybe he got in his car and started driving because the audio gets really weird. So I paid for a transcription service and just had the whole thing transcribed. But the problem is it kind of gave up.
So you wrote his manifesto?
Yeah, exactly. I gave up. There's something really dark about the fact that I had an AI transcribe his manifesto. God. Now that I think about it, that's a little dystopian.
Uncle Ted would be very sad.
Uncle Ted would be very confused, if we're being honest.
You just put some really great learning potential into the AI system.
Exactly.
Oh God, you're teaching it that? The AI is like, I agree with this. I agree with this.
Now you got 400 up-armored cyber trucks that are going into the metropolitan areas.
You type into ChatGPT and you're like, what do I do? I'm having this problem with my HOA. And they're like, I suggest purchasing a Komatsu D.
Well, actually,
oh my God.
The AI says Terminators. It's just a Matsu D.
There are different.
Tread on them. As soon as AI learns how to pour reinforced concrete, we're fucked. Avoid the hardware store.
Don't teach it.
No, I go the other way. Marvin, watch out. There's a basement.
We just hide in Home Depots.
Reinforce the radiator.
Yeah, that too. Oh my God. But yeah, so I mean, if you look at the whole situation with the tapes, I had to transcribe them and I had to read them through, but the transcription software gave up. It gave up on punctuation, on formatting, any of that about a third of the way through. So you have like the first third of it probably, not even, I'd say probably the first fifth, is formatted as paragraphs. Some of them don't make a ton of sense. It missed certain lines that he had spoken. I had to re-listen to it. Then you get about 20% of the way through, and it's just a wall of text with no periods, commas, paragraph breaks, anything, and it just goes for the next hour and a half.
So the AI slowly lost its grip on reality.
Literally, I think I drove the AI
ranting at you.
And here's the thing, I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's just the length of the video or something like that. No, I ran through our entire Donner Party video, which is 2.5 hours long. I ran it through that system, came out perfect, exactly the way I'd spoken it. And I was like, oh no, the AI just went, I can't keep track of what's going on. So I had to work my way through that, and what I would do is I would take, all right, so the movie Tread, which was made by Patrick Brower, who was the editor of Sky High News, I took that, and I took Marv Heemeyer's tapes, and I went, okay, like let's compare them. What doesn't match? And then anything that didn't match, I went through and I checked, okay, are there news articles? Is there a witness testimony? Was there a court case? Something like that, and I'll pull it all together. And what I found, interestingly enough, every single time there was a disconnect between Marv Heemeyer's version of events and Patrick Brower's version of events, it was Patrick Brower that was lying. Every time. Which was, interesting. It makes you think, right? Things that make you go, Yeah. But part of the problem was what you're dealing with here is this is not something that was really heavily covered on the ground outside of Granby. You had Granby's local journalist, who was basically Patrick Brower, who's just reporting his feelings on the topic and what the people who are still alive have to say. Marv, of course, is dead. Nobody knows he had any sort of tapes yet, any of it. So I guess you can give them the credit of maybe they didn't totally know why they were being attacked. But
I'm pretty sure you could put together some context
probably
clues.
Like that guy I really pissed off drove a bulldozer through my business. Why?
Well, here's the thing.
Why, Gary?
Why, Gary? Why?
Here's how you know that they knew they had done something wrong. When after he left Cody Docheff's plant and he hit Mountain Park Electric?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he hit Mountain Park Electric. The moment he drove onto that property, every single one of the people he eventually was going to go after knew they were a target and started evacuating.
Yeah, because he got in a bulldozer fight with somebody?
Yeah, with Cody Docheff.
Oh, yeah.
And so you
What's
didn't
a
do anything
bulldozer
wrong.
fight?
I think it was
Oh, there's
his
video
son
of it, I
got
think.
in a
No, it's not
bulldozer.
video. I don't think it was like it was something.
It was
way
another
lighter than a
piece of-
bulldozer.
well, there
it was
there were
it was
two
like a
things.
backhoe,
Yeah, there were two-
or something.
I
It was
get
something
it,
that
yeah.
stood no chance against
Yeah.
a bulldozer, and just literally just pushed him right out of the fucking way.
I just like he was like, I got a backhoe. Back down, and
No, it
he's
was
like,
like-
let's do this thing.
Big boy battle bots, dude. He came out and they were like ready to go at it, and then fucking Marvin just like pushed him out of the way into a ditch.
Like somebody going ape shit with a katana, and you're just like, cool, I got a pocket knife.
And they tried shooting at the thing.
Yeah.
you gotta try. In fairness, what if it's? I mean, it's like the Death Star with the exhaust port.
Yeah,
which
well-
in fairness was his fatal flaw.
Did you know they threw flashbangs? Yeah, they threw flashbangs down there.
yeah.
Like,
Which didn't work, did it?
but also I'm thinking about that. I'm like, you threw flashbangs down the exhaust. You could have blown the thing up. Like,
It was diesel.
still.
No, the whole thing came to an abrupt end, and it only took one round at 357, though.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
I'll do it.
R.I.P.
But yeah, I mean, if you look
was,
into the story,
The moral
it's-
is, don't f with the dude's name Gary. Apparently,
he was Marv.
oh
Marvin
shit, my bad.
Heemeyer, Yeah.
So Marv was just, I mean, for the people
Gary
that
and
know,
Marvin.
we can go
Sorry.
into this just
Yeah.
explaining.
I'm
like,
happy
if
to
you don't-
explain. Yeah, I
if
mean,
you
we have the full
don't
video
know
on
what
it for anybody who
is.
wants
Yeah.
to see like
Yeah.
to
Which is
see it
great.
laid out in
Yeah.
order.
Because Marv was a like guy from your video. Like,
Yeah,
he
like
was
totally-
very like.
he was well liked. Yeah, everybody from he lived up in Grand Lake, which was about 16 miles away. Everybody in Grand Lake had only nice things to say about him. Like I could not find a single example of somebody who lived in the town he lived in who had something bad to say.
Until that one thing.
Well,
No,
that was
no,
the thing.
he
Is
moved.
so he owned a business in Granby. He lived in Grand Lake. So everyone in Grand Lake loved him. Interestingly enough, the only people they interviewed about Marv's character for Tread were people who were negatively affected by him in Granby. They also interviewed people from Grand Lake who were friends with him, but nobody from Granby who knew him except the people that were targeted.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, did the people in Granby also like him and they just weren't saying anything? Because if you look at the statements in the newspapers, that's what it suggests, is that nobody saw this coming. Because here's the thing. Everyone in town, from what I can tell, was well aware that he was building an armored bulldozer, and nobody thought about why.
Which even he did. Even in his tapes where he's
Yeah.
like, he kind of took it as like a sign from God
Yeah.
or something. He's like, the inspector just walked right through here, saw what I was building, and was like, okay.
No, his friends would come over and hang out, and they were like, yep. He's like, Steve came over today, and he saw that I'm building a giant concrete reinforced killdozer, and he didn't bring it up, so I'm taking this to mean that God has sent me on a mission.
Yeah, literally that.
Yeah, and it's on the one hand, you're kind of like, most of the time somebody's like, yeah, God has sent me on a mission to do this thing. You're like, come on, man, you're delusional. In this case, I kind of get it.
In fairness, if my friends came over to my house and saw I was building a concrete reinforced bulldozer, they'd know fucking exactly what I was going to do with
You
it.
know?
Hey, Connor, you. I'm like,
How
Connor,
we doing, bud?
Connor, let's not do it.
mad.
Let's not do it at the unsub house. Take it anywhere else.
I'm still windows lighting up at night from the welding.
For the people that don't know, what was the catalyst of
Oh,
this
so-
guy deciding to be like, hey, God got a mission for me?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, that is so much more complicated of a question than anybody seems to realize.
Yeah.
And like most of the videos I've seen, because most of the coverage I was looking at, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, there was a sewage dispute, so he bulldozed buildings." The worst ones were like, "Yeah, he kept dumping raw sewage into irrigation ditches and wouldn't pay any fines and wouldn't fix his septic tank." So they fined him, and then he destroyed the town. And it's like, no.
Yeah, they tried to paint him as a bad. Those are the weird ones where
Oh.
they're just trying to paint him. They're like, he's a bad dude. He was didn't want to pay fines. You're like,
Short version. He buys the property in 1992 at an auction. He's not from Granby. He's not even from Colorado. He's from South Dakota. He moved to Boulder after he got out of the Air Force. Moved up to Grand Lake, and he had a buddy in town in Boulder or maybe Denver, who was like, I wanted to buy some property up there. And so Marv says, I'll look around. He finds this spot. It's an old concrete plant, foreclosure auction. Signs up for it, goes to the auction. He's agreed with his partner. They're willing to pay $66,000 for it. Auction gets up to $50K when you're including, thank you. Auction comes up to $50K when you're including the fees and everything.
Yeah.
He gets it, and this Cody Dochev guy, according to him, walks over and just reads him the riot act about it. And he's like, I was going to buy that property. You need to sell it to me. You know, it had been Cody's property back in the 80s. He had bought it in 72, and it was taken by the banks during the savings and loan crisis. Cody also made some bad business decisions that led to him losing the concrete plant and a whole bunch of people in town losing their jobs. This is all just brushed over in Tread.
Well, it wasn't Boulder, not Boulder. Granby was like a good old boy society.
Yeah.
Where it's like if you weren't in the in crowd, like they would just fuck you over.
Oh yeah, there were families there who had been there like a long time.
Yeah.
So when you, sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought a little bit. Yeah, so
welcome to
92, he buys the property, and he won't sell it to Cody Dochev because Cody Dochev won't offer him more than $50,000, and he had agreed to sell it for $66,000 after buying it, so he was going to make a $16,000 profit.
Right.
He was happy about this. He said he'd sell it to Dochev for the $66,000. Dochev wouldn't buy it, and this Gus Harris guy, who was going to help him buy the property, wouldn't give him any more money than that. Gus Harris, of course, owned the property directly south of Marv Heemeyer and would not give him a maintenance easement, which Marv needed because Bud Wilson, the superintendent of the sanitation department, had come down and said, hey, buddy, why don't you join the sewer district? You know, nice and modernized. It's easier. You don't have to pay to have your septic tank emptied. It'll be great. They're like, sure, yeah. Marv said, sure, but is there anything I have to do? Do I need an attorney? And they're like, no, we'll fill out all the paperwork for you, and you just have to pay a small fee to get yourself connected, and then you're good to go. And Marv's like, oh, cool, yeah, why not? He wants to ingratiate himself into Granby. In his tapes, he constantly talks about how his goal was to not step on any toes because he already knew that he was, maybe on a little bit of a bad foot.
The irony.
Yeah, well, he constantly talks about how he wanted to be a good guy or tried to be a good guy.
He would do like all the, again, you cannot reiterate how he would just help people. That is the biggest takeaway from your video at the beginning is how much he would just help people, even with the snowmobiles and building the ramrod thing. It's just like, I can drive through trees with my snowmobile.
He would just modify people's snowmobiles. He would add
like
bumpers to them.
Count Dankula and the business. We call this foreshadowing.
Exactly. But yeah, so I mean, he tries his best, but he tries to get onto the sewer district, and he goes to the meeting, and they're like, "Oh, you need a maintenance easement from this guy Gus Harris to your south." And he goes, well, I was told all of the paperwork would be done for me. And they're like, well, I guess it wasn't. Now here's the problem. Gus Harris is going to refuse to give him a maintenance easement over and over again. But part of the problem is that there's no actual coverage of what was said at the meeting. It's just he said, she said.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever happened.
Didn't the minutes for the meeting disappear? There was supposed to be minutes taken.
Somebody claimed he accidentally asked for the October ones, not the September ones, and he needed the September. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look into that one right yet. My guess would be that they gave him the October ones.
40 hours. Sounds like you do no research at all.
Sorry.
You're jerking off for 38 hours and watch Trey.
It was
I can watch
37 of them.
sometimes too.
I was helping it for half.
Which part?
What do you think?
Okay.
The good part.
Yeah. So he's told he needs to get the easement. For some reason, he can't get the easement.
creamy
He seems
middle.
to say that the town won't help him get the easement. Gus Harris won't give him the easement. The other option they give him is you can pay $80,000 to have a lift installed to connect yourself to the sewer main like 800 feet to your north.
So more than he was going to sell the property for.
Yes, exactly. And the clear goal was to make him go and sell the property to Cody Dochev. And they did a good job. There's no paper trail here. You cannot say that any of this is factual. You can only say it seems like this is what was going on. Because what happens is they try to, they put him in this position, and he just refuses to fix it. And, they're like, what's going on here? But they can't do anything because technically he has not violated any ordinance yet. Because when he bought the property, he was grandfathered into the old system. He would only need to build a sewer extension if he built more on the property.
And remind me again, and for everybody else who's watching, how long was that system that Cody had when he owned it in operation with no problem?
Well, he had bought the property in 1972, and he lost it in 1986.
Yep.
Zero issues.
Yep.
Zero issues. It's one of those things that you're like, okay, maybe there's no concrete evidence, but this is a lot of circumstantial evidence.
Yep.
Small town governments are like this much higher than HOAs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad.
There's like 6 people, and they all own the companies that run that small town.
Right.
And if you cross them, you're fucked.
It's that typical shit, and you see it all the time in local politics where it's like,
oh, that's crazy. You need a permit approved for an apartment complex? It would be really cool if you use rock from my quarry.
Yeah, exactly.
Like little shit like that.
You have to use rock from my quarry.
That's what I was
Local.
going to say, is these guys who are on the town board, they own the excavation company in town. They own the concrete in town. They own the propane in town. They own everything that's going to go into putting that sewer line in.
Yeah.
So they're the ones who are going to get the job when he has to do it. So they're either going to make money off of him from him putting the sewer line in, or they're going to force him out of town and their buddy Cody Dochev can get the land back. Now, they do not bug him about it for 6 years, because that's about how long it takes Cody to build up the money to try and restart his business. Because he's been renting land from the Thompson family up north of town, making his concrete. Marv said that it was some of the worst concrete he'd ever used, by the way, which I thought was really funny. Like Marv,
is actually hilarious.
in the tapes, Marv is so sassy. It's incredible.
Wait. This was not in the video, and I'm curious now. Did he use Cody's concrete in the Killdozer, or someone else's?
That's an
I
excellent
don't
question.
know. I
If he's
wouldn't be
bitching about the
surprised.
concrete, that makes the most sense.
I mean, how poetic justice would that be?
He's like, I've been building a tank essentially to destroy his business, and his concrete fucking sucks.
Exactly.
I don't know if this is gonna stop.
That's the best part, though. In the middle of everything, he's
30%.
like, yeah, I mean, this guy, he went bankrupt a few years ago, tried to kill himself. Everybody hates him. But yeah, this bitch, like...
Just like you said, sassy. He's like, I'm tired of this. This concrete sucks. At least I'm using his Killdozer. Sassy is such a weird word
Yeah,
for a dude
I
that
understand
uses
where
a
you're
Killdozer.
He always sounds so like nonchalant in the tapes too. When I was listening to him, because he'd be like, it's like, and he's like, March 11th, 2004. So yeah, finished the welds on the armor. They're looking pretty good, I guess. It's like, this man's been spending months building a machine to destroy, and he's like,
You know what that's called?
It's all right.
Autism.
Oh,
Do you know?
Oh, that was one of the very
burnout.
first things I'm not even kidding. One of the very first things I said to him while I was researching, one of the very first phone calls like that, I'm like, oh, this dude was fucking autistic, man.
Because they also, like, autistic people generally, by and large, have that innate, like, sense of fairness.
Yeah.
and
It's the, if this isn't fair and that bothers me to a core.
he was
and I'm gonna do
famously bad at talking to women too.
I didn't say it in the video because I didn't want it to come across as like unintentionally offensive, but no, the man was autistic as hell.
Yeah.
Like, this is a guy who, I'm not sure what he did in the military, but I don't think they taught him how to do that.
No.
So, like, he clearly taught himself how to do some impressive engineering shit.
Especially when you realize he had, like, cameras wired to TVs
With like
and shit on the
wiper blades
inside, like-
on the cameras.
And this is before YouTube time. There wasn't just readily information. He is reading books
build
and
a-
learning this shit.
What is
This man's got modifying a bulldozer for dummies out. Just
what is YouTube's monetization policy on an instructional video on how to make a Killdozer?
Do you want to find out?
I kind of do.
I'm not gonna lie.
We'll ask Whistling Diesel in like 6 months.
I'm not gonna lie. Part of the reason that I didn't go through the exact modifications was because I didn't want to risk it.
If a group of dipshits raised a bunch of money and we're going to give it to you guys, would you want to remake the Tread documentary, like actually go to Granby and interview people?
Oh hell yeah!
If we
Oh,
paid,
interesting.
Dude, if we could, we would do it in a heartbeat.
if we paid you
Yeah.
for Pepperbox,
That's so
Dude,
fucking
yeah,
crazy.
Box?
Yes.
Wow.
100%. 100%.